they can just, you know, learn from the show that it doesn't matter that this kid's a freshman. It doesn't matter that they're from a divorced family. They're one of us. We have to help them because they're one of us. We're all in it together. It's the only way, you know, they can get anything out of it is to understand everybody helps everybody. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about a special moment in band.
Wow. Now that's a tough one. A special moment in band.
The specialest moment that I can think of right now is my freshman year. We went to Garaway. And my mom, that year we got to go home after band camp and get ready and then go back. And my mom forgot to give me a note saying that I could go home with her. And I went up to Mrs. Graham and I gave her the note, and she's like, "Oh, no problem." And she gave me the biggest hug, and it made me feel like, wow, this teacher likes me. And I went home and I said, "Mom, are teachers allowed to hug you?" And she's like, "Yeah, they are." And I was like, "Oh, okay." She goes, "Why?" I said, "Because Mrs. Graham gave me the biggest hug, and she kissed me on the head." And I said, "I didn't think teachers were allowed to do that." And she's like, "Yeah, they're allowed." It made me feel real good.
One of the special moments that I'd always remember is last year we had a practice, and it was like just a regular practice, but we had it at the stadium, and it was like just before nationals and things, and I just thought it was just, you know, so neat that we invited our parents to come and watch. And my parents don't like to, you know, they don't get a chance to get out and get to come and watch me at competitions and things, but they came to this practice, and I just remember I did so good because I knew that they were in the audience. I mean, it wasn't that I was looking at them or seeing them, but just knowing that they were in the audience just really made me do a good job. And I just remember that there was hardly anything that I did wrong in that practice. The best part of band is getting to know different people and getting that you wouldn't normally know, like from the high school, you know, like in your classes or whatever, like, because like once you get up to like your junior and senior, you have no contact with underclassmen, and you would miss that opportunity of getting to know some really fine people.
There's a best part?
There's definitely a best part.
I'm not allowed to say the end, am I?
The best part of band is the people, the friendships that develop, the companionship. The trips is probably another thing just because of the people that you're with and the fact that you can relax and you're away from any problems you're having in New Philly or whatever. So it's definitely the friends, because for the most part, you make friends that you know are just going to be lifelong.
What is it about band that makes these friendships so different than it sounds like other friendships might be?
I think for the most part it brings out the best in each of us, and it teaches us to keep more of an open mind towards things. Whereas if people aren't in band, I think sometimes they fall into little stereotypes or looking around with kind of a closed mind, whereas we're taught that there's good in everybody and you just got to find it. And then, I mean, everybody's got their companions, but with band you find friends that you know you're always going to want to go see or you're always going to keep in touch with.
The best part about band, the part I enjoyed most on a marching field was the learning of drill. I always thought it was cool just to experience somebody else's interpretation of the music through the field.
The people in band are the best thing in band, because if you ever have a problem, they're always there for you. And I can't think of any other organization with that where you can do that. In other organizations, there's always fights or there's always people you can't talk to, but there's always, like, almost everyone in band I can say, hey, I have a problem, and I wouldn't do that to just anybody, I don't mean that, but, like, I don't know. Everyone in band is always, they're all very close and you can always trust them. That's the best thing about band, is the people.
The best part of band is just having a spot, because no matter where you go anyplace else, you either have to fight like crazy for that spot, or it's given just because of something before you. With band, you kind of come in, you have a spot, and you maintain that spot. And if you let it go, then it's your fault. But the best part is there's always a spot for you. There's not. You're never left out.
Tell me more about that spot.
Just a spot in everything, actually. There's a spot in a snare line, a spot in the band, a spot in the community, actually. People can recognize you're in the band, and just the things you learn from that, other people recall, and then that's kind of your spot. It's exactly where you are. Let me see. One of the most things that's always on my mind is first time I ever walked into the Indianapolis, well, it was Hoosier Dome at the time, it's RCA now, and I was Band-Aid, and I walked in there and I looked up, and there was just, up wasn't up to like say it, up was like looking to outer space up. It was just huge, and it took my breath out. It was so big, and we were going to take part on the field of that, you know. It was pretty cool, just being able to know you're in a big room like that, and people are going to be watching you, you know. I like that.
Just being at the Dome, just like walking on there for the first time, it was just like, whoa. I mean, you hear all these stories, but you never know what to expect until you experience it for yourself. And just walking on was just like, whoa. And I don't know, and I, see my parents and see all the people out there, up and cheering, and that's just an awesome feeling, just to be there on the field. And
I'd have to say that the first time the door opened down in Indianapolis, my eyes just gazed up at this huge building with this huge field and everybody there. It just overwhelmed me. I couldn't believe how big it really was. So it was a lot different than marching on football fields. So I wish I wasn't a senior so I could go down there a couple more times, but what can I say?
As you think back on all the things that you've done in band, all the years that you've been in band, what stands out for you as a special moment that you'll probably always remember?
I think going into the Dome for the first time, you go in there and you look up and it's like, whoa. Because, it's like, you can be in the stands and it just doesn't look as big from the stands.
Something that I'll remember is the performances at the Dome. Those are, always real memorable. I like the Dome a lot. I like architecture and just being able to perform in, that beautiful building and display my talents and with all the people I really enjoyed that.
Wow, the thing that, I don't know, the thing that hit me the most, like the wow thing, when I walked into the Dome in Atlanta, and just like all the band parents were like screaming and everything, and that was just like the most rush I've had in band. Like that was just the most rush I've ever had in my life, probably, was walking into the Dome and all those people were like screaming, and you were like in the Dome and everybody was watching you, and I just thought that was really, wow, that was awesome. That was probably the biggest thing.
How did you know it was worth it?
Whenever we got there and all those people were just standing there watching us. And I didn't see any of the people because I was sitting in the back, but we had to switch parts in one section. And I stood up and I moved over to my new seat and I just saw all the people standing in the back and they were all standing up applauding, and I was just like, wow, all these people here just to see us. It was just really impressive.
Convention was, I don't think at first any of us really understood the largeness or the scale that it was. I mean, I think we went down there and expected just to be another concert, and after we sat down and people started coming in, it was just like, wow, there's a lot of people here, and you'd see like name tags from like Ohio State and stuff like that, and professors, and it was just like, whew. And then just the way we performed, that had to be the best performance I think we've ever given in my entire high school career.
I think this year at the convention, I just put all my feelings into what I was playing. I didn't even think about anything else. I didn't worry about the notes, really. I just seen the notes on the page is nothing, but what you put into it is so much more. And I put everything into my, every song has a reason and a story behind it. And I just feel that if I put my feelings behind it, it'll be so much more. And it just sounds so much better when you do things like that. So I've always done that. I got very emotional after we played. I was just so proud of what we all accomplished together. I think everybody put their hearts in together that day.
I think playing at the convention this January was the biggest thing for me, preparing that much music, and when I thought about how well I played it, it just really showed me the whole 4 years of how much I've grown and how much improvement I've made. So that was one of the proudest moments for me, was playing there and all the people staying there, and it was really awesome.
Convention was a good experience.
Oh yeah, yeah, convention was awesome.
So tell me about what it was like to play at the convention.
It was mind-boggling. I mean, it was so much more than I expected. Mrs. Graham sort of tried to explain it to us, but I mean, you just don't know until you get there. And then we got there and there were so many people in there, and we just started playing, and it was such the coolest feeling in the whole world. It was great.
What lessons do you think band has taught you?
Not to be late. That's the first lesson band's ever taught me. And I still got the phrase in my head, to be late is to be on time. Wait, no, that's not it.
I think with band, you learn a lot of good people skills. You learn how to get along with different kinds of people. You learn how to see maybe everyone else's opinion or viewpoints, how to work with people. Like in the percussion, a lot of us don't take good criticism, criticism that would help us, and you learn to do different things like that. It's a good learning experience. Yeah.
Most important lesson learned through band is love. I know that's kind of an odd comment, but like when I was talking about student-teacher relationships and how students go together, and you can play as much music as you want, and you can do all those things, but when it comes down to it, it matters if you guys care about each other. If you don't, well, what's the point? You can go out and play a great show, but what's it mean? And this organization, I mean, Mrs. Graham makes sure that you know that you are in her thoughts in the same way as Mr. Furby, Mr. Graham, I mean everybody on the staff. And that goes back to the whole thing that how they've shown me things through education.
Well, it has taught me a lot of responsibility. Just as in the case of my work outside of band, and now that I've been promoted to manager, and I don't think I would have ever been able to do that, you know, without my band experience, and it just shows that there's a lot of responsibility that's taught through the band.
The most important thing I've learned is that every individual is important. Everybody has their place, and every single role in the band is important, not just, you know, like being a field commander, some people think, oh, they're really important, but it's not. It's just like whatever our position is, and every single person's important.
That I am important to somebody, because sometimes, I'm not saying me in particular, sometimes people don't think they're worth anything. And here, it's an atmosphere that everybody sitting in one of those band chairs is important and is important to the whole entire group, and they need you. And that's what I think.
If Mrs. Graham was a song or a style of music, what kind of music would fit the type of person she is?
Oh boy. I have like absolutely no idea.
A piece of music that would fit Mrs. Graham, I would have to say, would probably be something in many different movements and have many different varieties of tempos and variations and things, because, you know, she's the bubbliest person, most energetic, but then she also just like tugs at your heart and makes you give everything. And then I see her in like 3 movement songs, and then the third one, you know, just let everything go. You know, I think I see that in her.
If Mrs. Graham were a kind of music, I'd think she'd be like a salsa or something upbeat. That's how she is, and that's how I'll always remember her.
Well, sometimes she could be a really passionate song, and then she'd go to a really intense song. It's almost like sometimes with like passionate, it almost makes me think of like a sunset or like a brook just laying there in the shade listening to it. And some intense moments could almost be like being in a war.
There's really no one type of music to fit Mrs. Graham. She's got so many different sides and so many different views of life, and there's just no one style that would fit her. I mean, she likes to recognize the past. There's country. She has a true appreciation for the arts and music. That'd be her classical side. And she's looking ahead to the future constantly, kind of a new age. And, I mean, there's no real one music that would categorize her.
If Mrs. Graham were a style of music, I would say that she'd have to be classical, because I think classical, as far as music goes, has the broadest range of emotion and feeling, you know, in any type of music. You know, from like a soft waltz or something to like we played Inferno the last year, and it was very hard and heavy. And also just the name classical, I think, just says things, you know, about the way Mrs. Graham like acts and does stuff. She's very like mannerly and likes to raise people to be the proper way, you know, and use their manners as they know how to do. And I think the classical style just goes really well with her personality.
If Graham was a piece of music, she would definitely be a march, because she is on the ball. She keeps going
She doesn't waver, the tempo doesn't waver, she's right there. She's really consistent with everything she does. There's no question in my mind she would be a march.
If Mrs. Graham was a piece of music, what kind of music or what song would she be? This may be a song you haven't played in band, but any song, any style. What fits Mrs. Graham?
I don't know, I just see her as an upbeat person, music that like 16th notes really, really fast. I mean, because she just keeps on going.
I would say that she, as far as the style goes, she would have to be a hymn, I would say, because she's pretty sturdy in her ways and, you know, solid. There's always big, solid major chords and, you know, and just because of her faith in God and how far it's taken her and the peace that she has now with Chip and Mindy's deaths, you know, that would be a way to describe her. And
if Mrs. Graham was a piece of music or a style of music, what style of music would she be?
Oh boy. Can I plead the fifth? A song for Mrs. Graham would have to be ABA because she has very many different emotions and she can express everything. I mean, she goes from being the most motherly person I know to being one of the most scary. But so we'll definitely have to have different movements of different times, different styles, everything.
I don't know what kind of a song it would be. It would be a compassionate song. It would be a slow-moving song with a lot of feelings, not just compassion, but leadership. I can't really think of a song offhand to do that. I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Stop music. There's a wide variety of music out there. Maybe oldies. You gotta put that one on.
I have to say she has a mix of everything. About everything.
Tell me more about that.
Because sometimes she's all, how is she? Sometimes she's really caring, and that's kind of like classical. And sometimes she's like, come on, let's go, do it. That's kind of like rock and roll. And then sometimes she's just spouting out the commands, and that's like kind of like rap.
Ian, get back in there. You're not stealing any of my answers.
I would have to say, using one of this year's songs, that Mrs. Graham would be described best by, I think, Push Tough. It's kind of, you know, the first part's really fast and upbeat, and I mean, that shows how she has to run around all the time trying to keep all of us in line. And then the second song is kind of mellow, and it kind of shows how she takes care of her family. You know, she's always there for her family. So I think that would be a good song to describe her.
I don't know what style she'd be, but I think she'd be like The Cat and the Mouse by Aaron Copland. That just, it sounds, it's a keyboard piece. And it jumps everywhere. It sounds like a cat jumping on the piano. And sometimes the chords clash, and sometimes it's all nice and peaceful and everything. And that just, that's what I think of when I see her.
Probably, her style of music would probably be oldies, probably the one, oh shoot. Oh, shoot. What's that one where they wipe out? She's just, sometimes I think she's just wiped out. I mean, sometimes I think she's exhausted, but I would be too after a marching season. I mean, I am wiped out. Sometimes it's almost good to have the season over.
She'd probably be something by Robert W. Smith, because it's very, very dynamic. I mean, at one time it can be serene and happy, but at the next time it can be going full bore, and you're like, I mean, for the most part, she has different intensities. She's always intense, she always knows what needs done, but there's times when you're on the wrong side of Mrs. Grimm that you don't want to be on. I've been there a couple of times, and I mean, she runs full speed, she gives it all the time. And for the most part, everything fits together and just makes something that's good.
Oh, she'd definitely be Inferno, just because she could go, I've seen like her go from 0 to 60 in, 0.2 seconds, just because she can, like that. And when she got mad, man, fire just roared out of the eyes and stuff, because she's got that look, So I guess she'd be Inferno if she was a piece of music, just because she can do it.
Hold on, I gotta ask you, what was the one you said, no, I'm not gonna say that?
I was gonna, because when I heard it from my friends, I was just going to go da 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 da, and then going, but I still couldn't think of a song. I mean, that would have been pretty good to keep on film, but I can't think of a song to put after it. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
I think if I had to pick a song to describe Mrs. Graham, it would be Ascension, because that song is about hope and it's about triumph. And she takes every person and she doesn't give up on us, no matter how many times we've messed up or we've failed her. She still loves us and she still appreciates us and she wants us to grow to be good people. And I think hope is a big part of her life, and I mean, that's obvious to me, and her great love. So that song just means so much.
In band, you learn a lot of teamwork and working to get toward the goal. And without, learning the teamwork, you'd have a bunch of people running everywhere wanting to do their own thing. And it's kind of like it teaches you how to be a leader, but yet be a follower. And that's really important.
I don't know, it's, I think the tuba section, the percussion section might be battling over who corrupted me first. It's like, it's a change. If anything, I don't think I had as many friends before I was in band. And
So that's been a nice thing that's happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being a horn player, well, knowing that I've been only a horn since my sophomore year, I walked in as a French horn not knowing what I was getting into. The first time playing it, I had no clue what I was playing, the notes, and I couldn't match any pitches, and it's like, I was ready to throw it down and put it away. And it's like Mrs. Graham and a few of our section leaders said, just keep working on it, and before I knew it, I was a really good player. I was told by many people that I was really good, and they couldn't believe it was me performing that instrument, knowing that I came from flugobone the year before, which is a totally different instrument and it was quite an experience going from that to a French horn, and I love playing the French horn now, knowing that next month I will have to put that away and I will never play it again. But I have enjoyed playing the instrument, and I hope the person that gets my instrument enjoys it just as much as me.
I think the most challenging thing about band was being like a leader, because it's so easy to be a follower, and it's so easy to just do what everybody else is doing. And so when you're coming in and you have to be the person that other kids are looking up to, and other kids want them to other kids want you to teach them, I think it's a hard job to make them respect you. And so I think being a teacher has been the most difficult thing for me.
What did you have to change about yourself to be a teacher, a leader?
I had to be more of a listener, because I think I just kind of get in there and I go, and so I had to become a better listener and a better problem solver, because there's, problems that come up and arise and stuff, and you just have to, think of solutions, easy solutions to, make better of a bad situation.
I'm glad that they're so strict. I mean, not really, it's not really down to, everything has to be precise every minute, but, they make you work for what you do. And in my old school, it was just kind of, you goofed around, and, we'd be standing out on the field getting ready to go out for halftime, and we'd all just be standing there talking, and here at least, you have to concentrate on other stuff, too. They really make you focus on, doing the best that you can do instead of just, doing it for the fun of it.
How does that make things better, do you think?
It makes people appreciate the time that they're spending in this organization. If you're just here to goof off, then once you're done, you're going to go, well, why did I waste 4 years of doing that, or 2 years of doing that, it was kind of just a pastime. It wasn't really that I did it for anything important.
The thing I'll miss most is the percussion section. I love everybody in the drum line. They're great. It's like a little family. We all take care of each other. We all look after each other. If somebody's in a bad mood or not having a good day, somebody will be there with a joke or a silly story to make them smile and make them laugh. And it's really great because, we can just get together on the weekends and do whatever outside of band. We're all really good friends.
I think our band is different because it not only teaches you about music and how to play it, but it teaches you how to be a human. It teaches you morals and friendship and just everything you need to know in life. It's like one big family.
I plan on going to the Navy August 10th of '98, and I'm going to go into aviation electronics. And yeah, band did kind of. I figured if I could make it through Mrs. Graham yelling and stuff through practices, I could definitely go to the military service of some sort and make it.
The thing I probably remember the most is everybody is a family here. And some people don't have exactly a good family life, and this is a great atmosphere to be in because we're always there for each other no matter what.
In my 8th grade year, Mr. Furby would show us videos of marching band, and I didn't understand what it was all about. All I saw were people, blobs everywhere. I didn't have any idea what was going on. So coming into my freshman year, like in June of my freshman year, it was kind of scary, like what's going on, what are these people doing, what am I going to be doing? But after I got used to it, it was fun.
So what would you like to say about what band has meant to you? Or what's been important to you about band?
The most important thing with band would be friends, and what you do learn out of respect to people, and please and thank yous are very important. You get a long way in life with those. And music is your life, You fall asleep to music even if it's just your breathing. And you learn to really pinpoint things that you hear in your life that are music, no matter what it is.
I believe, I just believe in you have to work for what you do, And a lot of times I'd have to pay, I'd work and I'd have to pay my own band fees, and that's hard sometimes. So that's what I believe in.
Band has meant so much to you that you were willing to do that.
Yeah.
That's how much it meant.
Yeah, it meant enough to me to do that. Being at Buckeye, a lot of the kids they don't understand what band's like, and they don't understand that you have to work for what you go through. They don't understand that. They think, oh, band takes up your whole life, and there's, you just have no free time. And I'm thinking, your free time is going out doing things that I wouldn't approve of doing anyway, so I enjoy, being in band as a whole, so.
They're missing out on all the nice people, and for some reason they don't think it's really a sport. But really it is, because we practice harder than the football team, harder than the wrestling team. And there's missing a lot of good things, like going down to Indianapolis and setting their eyes on the dome. That's just outrageous down there. So I think they're really missing out on some good things.
The people at Buckeye don't understand the commitment. I know that, at least in the class that I'm in, they, oh God, every day when I say have band practice, they're like, quit talking about band. Why are you doing that? It's so stupid, you know, you have to devote so many hours. You could be out doing other stuff, but they don't understand how many friends you make and how much, they don't realize how much fun you have. I mean, all of them, none of those people are involved in anything at their home school. And they're missing out on a lot, because if I wasn't involved here, I wouldn't come back here every day, so I wouldn't have the friends.
People who are in band, I really don't think they understand the concept of family and friends and closeness. They don't understand the fact that, like, when we go someplace on the weekends, that we come home doing something positive. And I believe if they were trying to come in our place, they couldn't do it. Because choir people, take an example, we went to choir competition and they complained about getting up early in the morning and about having to stay all day. And they just don't understand that if they do this, it's really a worthwhile thing. And the closeness and the friendship is really good. And if they could do that, I mean, I think it'd be so much better.
I'm not really concerned about what other people think about us. I think you really have to come down here a day to band land, as they say, and just, you know, come spend time with people, and you see how much fun we have and how much we enjoy each other and what we do. And no matter what they think, that doesn't really matter in the long run. It's what we think we're doing, and as long as we're happy, that's the most important thing.
The most memorable thing about Chip was his amazing love life. He had many women, and sometimes he didn't handle it right, but I think he had a good time, and I think the girls he was with had a good time too.
Okay. Chip and me were always really good friends. I could consider Chip, he was definitely one of the best friends I'll ever have, and obviously everybody knows he was a great person. But like, we used to go out, and he was my boyfriend, and he'd always break up with me. And one time he did a really good job of making me upset. And coming home from Toronto on the bus, and he's like, I don't want to be your boyfriend anymore. I don't remember how he said it, but I was just so upset, and everybody was like, Chip, I can't believe it. It was just, and I'm like, no. And then, I don't know, it was really, and then I talked to Mrs. Graham for a long time, and she helped me a lot. And he's like, oh, it's just Chip, you know, he'll go back out with you in a week. And oh, okay, so, but that was really interesting. But Chip and me always had our times, but that was funny, I guess. Now it's funny. Then it wasn't funny, but it was Chip.
Well, I grew up with Chip, and he was in all my classes since, like, kindergarten. I remember in 4th grade when he had a crush on me, and he kept pecking at my art stuff, and that really made me mad because I liked art, and he kept screwing it up, and I'd go tell the teacher, and she'd be like, oh, whatever, and just ignore it or something. But he was with me for a lot of things, so.
Then in middle school, I remember we were in a play about ecology or something in 7th grade, and we were going out or whatever in middle school, and I remember one day sitting on the stage, we were watching other people rehearse. We crossed our hands so we could hold hands underneath and no one would know, because his dad was in there and we didn't want him to know that we were holding hands, but we decided to just be friends after that. And, oh, I don't know, high school. I have pictures of him on the bus to Atlanta, I think it was, pretending to, like, kiss Nick Angelini and just crazy things. He was so crazy all the time. He just laughed nonstop.
It was a Sunday evening, I believe, and Mrs. Graham called my house, and we were on the phone for a little bit, and we were talking about a few things. And then she brought up about when his funeral was going to be and a bunch of other things. And then she asked me, would you be a pallbearer for Chip's funeral? And it's like, for a second, I just didn't know what to say. I mean, it was just kind of a shock to me. It was just kind of a surprise to me knowing that she would want me to do it. And it's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And taking, or I should say, rolling his body down Ray Avenue was just a day that I'll never forget, because knowing the kid for a short time and having a lot of memories with him, and when they put his body down into the ground, I was one of the few people that got to stick around and got to put a scoop of dirt on top of his grave. And the kid's given me a lot of memories, and is a lot of reason why I stuck with band, and was a big encouragement in my life. He was somebody I would always look up to, because he had a lot of talent with the Dauphine Chorale, had good grades. I mean, had a lot going for him, and I was really happy to see that he made with what he had for me in his life-wise. And he was somebody I'll never forget.
What do you miss about him the most?
His ornery.
His orneriness, yeah. I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, it was like having fun, like someone to talk to.
He was a good person to talk to.
Yeah. He always asked me how my basketball net.
He always kind of asked what was going on with you.
And Mrs. Graham came this year for my basketball.
Oh, Mrs. Graham came to see you?
Yeah, Mr. Graham, Christine Flynn.
So you had a whole gang watching you play basketball. What was it like to have them watch you while you played?
Cool. And that game felt like Chip there for some reason. Chip was like right beside me.
It felt like Chip was right beside you while you were playing.
You know, then I just started freaking out.
That would kind of freak me out too. But it looked like it was a neat feeling that you had.
Yeah. I tried to score a lot and keep messing up.
But you tried to score.
Yeah.
Well, losing Chip was really hard, especially for a horn section. But when we performed every time after that, you know, we felt like he was there with us. And that kept us going. And it still does to this day. And, you know, I always think about him, because, I mean, he's been there with me since we were 4. And he keeps me going, even though he's not here.
Okay, these ribbons are special of how we went through. They're significant to me of how we went through times this past year of difficulty, and physically and emotionally, and I put them right beside the national thing, because even though we had tough times, we kept pushing, and we ended up making something of ourselves. And the people these represent, they're very significant to us. I mean, they're great kids, and we sadly miss them, but they'd rather us get on with our lives and just keep pushing and do our best so we can make the best of our future. But that's about all I got to say about that.
Well, I will always remember Chip, for one thing, because I've known him all my life because of my dad working with Miss Graham when he was here in the music department. And I always looked up to him because he would fight for everything. And he would be in everything possible so he could make his life more special, even though he didn't know when he was going to die. And I wasn't even in town that day when it happened. My mom had to come get me in Akron and told me. And I was totally shocked. I did not know what to do. And Mindy, she was a wonderful girl. Every time you saw her, she had this huge smile on her face. She never complained about anything or anybody. And they both were a special gift from God that I thank for Him bringing them to on this earth.
I think the loss of Chip and Mindy, they were really felt by the pit. Chip was in drumline. Mindy was in the pit for marching season this year, and we all got to be really good friends with her. You know, her coming in new. We kind of had to teach her about the pit and all of our traditions and all of that. And she was really open-minded about everything. And she was a ton of fun. She wasn't afraid to try new things or, you know, get in on our jokes or whatever. We had tons of fun, and losing her was really hard on all of us. We really miss her, in drumline especially.
What do you think you missed the most about her?
I miss her smile. She always brightened up the room. She was always in a good mood, always smiling. You know, you could be in the worst of moods, and you'd go talk to her, and you just have to start smiling because she was always so happy about everything. It was really good.
Well, if Mindy would hear it, she'd probably. I think she set a very good example for other people. She's very smart, and she always tried her best at everything. And we might hear that a lot, but she really did. She really tried her best at at everything she did. And like Pitt this year, it was the first year, new instrument to her, and she really, she was better than me. And that's my section, you know. But she just got in there and got it done, and she didn't shun the hard work. She just went at it, and I guess, like I said again, I guess through all this, you really learn to value your family, the people you're close to, and if you're not close to them, then this is probably a good time that you should be. Or start to be, because it's hard. If you would have told me my freshman year that I would have had a girlfriend and she would have passed away, I wouldn't have believed you. That just doesn't happen to very many people, and it's I don't know. I think there's definitely. I've been looking for things. I'll probably find them later down the road of things I learned for this or how I've grown, and I think it's taught me to maybe to work harder at things. I don't know, maybe if I'm having a hard time, just to think about her, maybe that can inspire me to do better, or things like that.
I think what I appreciated about her the most was she kind of filled us in on what it was like to be on the other side of the band, out there marching and doing all of the other stuff that the band proper does that we don't do. Because we really don't know what that's like, and she would, you know, she'd fill us in and tell us what it was like, you know.
She was kind of a link.
Yeah, she was kind of a link between us and the rest of the band that we were kind of missing out on, but it was fun because we got to know, you know, other jokes that other sections had. And
so it was mainly because of her that you started to appreciate what the band proper did?
Yeah.
While you guys were lounging?
Yep. She told some really good stories about the rest of the band, and I really found out what all that they had to do and how hard that they worked to accomplish what they did.
So without Mindy, what would your experience have been in band?
I think without Mindy, my experience in band, it would kind of been a little more empty. I wouldn't really know, I don't know, I wouldn't really know how other things were. I only know what the pit is like, because that's all I've ever experienced. I've never had to march. I've never had to hold a horn up or go to attention at the beginning of a parade or drill set. You know, I don't know any of that stuff, and I think without her there, I never would have known. I would have never been opened up to that sort of thing.
I remember this one come to my head. I remember one time Chip used to bring food down during the day, and he used to eat at Miss Graham's office. So he asked, I was down in the bedroom, he asked me, Sam, do you want to come in the office, eat with me? So I'm like, yeah, sure. So we went into Miss Graham's office, and we're eating these bag of chips, and Miss Graham comes in, and she looks at me and wonders why I'm not practicing. And I was like, okay, so I go to the office, and I go and I went off, and she asked Chip, she goes, Chip, did you invite him in here? And he goes, oh, no, I didn't invite him in here. But he told me that later, and I sort of laughed. I didn't say anything, but I thought it was funny.
You know, goodness knows he's done a lot of goofy stuff. What memories do you have of Chip?
I think my
funniest memory of Chip was probably my sophomore year. We were in advanced English together, and he went out on the roof and got his detention, and him and Katie Crimeville and a couple other kids. We were all going to go out and do that the last day of school, but they kind of took us a step ahead of all of us.
There was one time when we went to the fairgrounds and Mrs. Graham picked a few of us to play the national anthem. Well, I was a freshman and she said, load your instruments. Well, I asked Chip, I'm like, do I load my instrument too? He's like, yeah, go ahead. He's like, put it on this cart right here with all the other ones. So I'm like, okay. So the next morning we go to the fairgrounds and Nicole pulls her trumpet out of the trunk. And I'm like, Nicole, aren't you supposed to load that? She goes, no. She's like, trumpets never load their instruments. I'm like, are you sure? She goes, yeah. So I get over to the truck and get my trumpet off, and Mr. Furby's like, you don't load your instrument. Did you know that? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, you're not supposed to. I'm like, oh. I'm like, well, Chip told me to. And he's like, well, Chip's not the band director. And I kept on getting yelled at, and I kept on blaming it on Chip. And I said something to him, and he's like, I didn't say it. No, I didn't say anything.
What are some of the things you remember about Chip, or things that you did together?
Well, I remember him always trying to teach me how to do his machines, which I was never very good at, because he'd always try to teach me how to do the medicine, you know, and stuff, and it just wouldn't work. And I was looking at a couple pictures about a week ago, and that my mom had out, and they were of him in the morning, and that was really interesting because his hair was just sticking up everywhere, and then they were really funny. And I was just happy to see him, you know, and he was in a good mood and he was smiling, so I was just really happy that I was there, and I got to share, you know, his life with him.
All right, what I remember about Chip when he was doing his little tricks and playing his little games, I don't know what you'd call them, but I remember when he used to come back from a stay in the hospital for a short time, he was saying how he had this, like, basketball or whatever, and he'd always throw it out in the hall, and this nurse would walk by, and she'd have to come in and things like that, you know. Or then, like, the day he broke the sunlight in the choir room, you know, with a shoe. And Mrs. Graham went off about that. And just the stupid things that he has done. And also, I don't know, the cubby hole that's now a double-decker cubby hole because Chip stood on it and broke it. You know, things like that he did. And, you know, we all do them, but he was just funny. That was my cubby hole that Chip broke it.
Okay, then a message to Kirsten Spire and Christy. Remember last April when we went up to Akron Children's Hospital to see Chip? Well, do you remember playing the game of life? You want to know how we won? Well, when you two weren't paying attention, your brother took a little bit of that money from the bank and stuck it with our money to make it look like we're winning all this money. So, hey, Kirsten, you guys really won. Sorry about your brother cheating.
Let's try that one again.
Yeah.
As best you can.
Start the question, maybe.
A new one or the same one?
I think probably like one of the most funny thing is I can remember my freshman year performing at Nordonia, I believe, when it was pouring down rain, and Mary Greco loses both of her shoes in the mud, and she has to tramp through all the gravel and everything walking through. So I think I pretty much remember that because it was really awful. And I mean, it was a joke because we also qualified for state contest that year doing the Lion Sleeps the Night, so that was kind of something that really stands out, being funny and everything.
Well, the traffic cones. Mr. Furby, he always took traffic cones, and we got that, like, keep Mr. Furby within the law, and then, like traffic cones. And the guardsmen have kind of got a couple traffic cones from Winter Guard competitions this year, but not too many people know those, and we signed one of them, and it's above her locker. If they figure out where it comes from, then...
My favorite band memory is Toronto, in general, and I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of seniors when I say that, because that trip was just funny. Through the whole thing, there was always something different going on. I'll never forget when we were dancing on the bars, and then Mr. Furby and Miss Beachy were trying to get there and do the YMCA. I've got pictures of them. They probably wouldn't. They'd probably lose it when they see them, but they're very interesting, and I always got a kick out of that.
Probably the funniest thing I can remember was when last year at one of the guard competitions, the winter guard competitions, the guardsmen had to go out to the bus to try to find tambourines, and they weren't out at the bus, and the bus was locked, and we couldn't get the door open, and so we pushed over the driver's side door window, the little one, and Chip was out there, and now everybody was out there, yet we decided to try to put David Norman through the window, and he got stuck halfway in with his legs flopping around, and that had to be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. We were all on the ground laughing. We finally kicked in we should put Chip through the window instead, but...
And you made it through?
Chip did. David didn't. We had to pull David out. He was wedged in there pretty tight.
This year during the concert, we were practicing for the Christmas concert at the church, and Miss Graham comes over to a couple of percussionists and says, I need you guys to come outside for a second. So it's cold, we go outside, and Christine Burns, one of her tires got flat. And so it was Nate Heiser, me, and Scott Brian Hughes and Willie. And we're changing her tire while everyone else is inside practicing. And we couldn't figure out, the jack for some reason wasn't working. So we lifted up the back end of the car, 4 of us guys, and Nathan's changing the tire while we have the back end of the car lifted up. And we felt really strong after that, but it was really neat.
Oh, and on the winter guard trip one time, we had to stop to use the rest area, but there was only like one girl's bathroom. So they figured the guy's bathroom was clear, so Shayna and Amber Pretty walked in. Sam Sponsler was in there using the restroom, so that was kind of a neat memory for a really long time. He got teased about that forever. It was hilarious. Amanda Gray, she's just hilarious, and I sit by her, and I have the best time sitting by her because she's so funny. She just makes playing fun because she'll sit there and we have a good time together.
Okay.
Person that has impressed me the most is probably Erin Fody. When she joined band right off, she was very easy to make friends with. I don't talk much to her or anything, but and she's a really good player and has a very good tone. And I found out last week she's going to be in symphonic band for state band, and that's, a big jump for a freshman to jump up to symphonic band like that.
I think maybe Jen Hayward has impressed me the most as an underclassman. She sort of reminds me of myself in a way, but then in other ways she doesn't. Jen Hayward is the kind of person who she looks like she's shy, but when you get her by herself in a fun little group, she can get the fun going in her. And she's a good trumpet player, and she hides back. So she reminds me a lot of myself. So I look up, and she's impressed me a lot because she's made that strive and become a better trumpet player.
I think the one underclassman that I've really noticed this year is Teddy. He's a freshman. He is the sweetest person that you could ever meet. And I watch him a lot, and I don't think he knows that I do. But I watch him. He listens so well. He's always respectful and always nice. He'll do anything you ask him to do. He is so sweet, and he's really impressed me. He's a great player. He has a lot of talent.
I think I'm most proud of Brittany Burgess because she loves her trumpet. She practices like all the time. Every time I see her, she's practicing. She sounds really well. She wants to be better, and she's always saying how, I want to be first. I want to be first, and I'm like, it's not about being first. It's about how well you're playing. She plays so well. I don't even think I played that well my freshman year. I think she pushes herself a lot to get where she is, and I think that's really great. And
I think the junior that stuck out in my mind the most is Tawny Miller. She always has a great attitude, and sometimes she may be a little grouchy, but she still makes you feel good, and she's very good, a very good musician. So she's the junior that sticks out in my mind the most. And The sophomore class, I don't really know a whole bunch of. I'm sorry to admit that, but I know Crystal Van Kuren, and I know she's a good musician. She tries. I mean, I see her practicing all the time, so I know that she's always in there trying. And I would say that the freshman that sticks out in my mind most would be Aaron Jenkins, the bassoon player. He has a great attitude. It doesn't matter. He gets along with everybody. We were talking about a Kaleidoscope on this past weekend. He just walks around and talks to everybody. He doesn't care what grade they're in or who they are. He gets along with everybody, and everybody likes him. So I think that when he's a senior, there'll be I think the whole freshman class is going to have a great impact.
Tell me about some underclassmen who've impressed you.
Underclassmen that impressed me are probably Hughes brothers during drumline season, except for they just maybe have a little cocky attitude sometimes towards me and everybody else. They do take responsibilities because they're strong juniors in their playing ability, and I was the only senior in winter drumline this year in the battery, and they sort of took over helping me out, try to guide the rest of them because there's only few selected juniors and a lot of freshmen, a lot of people that are new to the drumline type ordeal that we have during the winter programs.
Oh, I'd have to say maybe because I know them better or whatever, my freshmen, Mike C. and Steve Gardner, just because they seem more, well, Mike C. is just out there. He just doesn't care what anybody thinks about him. And then Steve he's just a nice person. He's kind of nice to everybody.
It's amazing how all the freshmen are like our class was. They stay together and they go for it, you know, and they won't stop. And I hope they continue with it.
Okay, the people that impressed me the most would be Erin Johnson, one, because she's just, I don't know, she's crazy, and she has always been able to make me laugh no matter what's going on, and I think she will do wonderful next year as a senior, and she's really going to be able to help the freshmen a lot and make them feel more comfortable coming into band. I know that a lot of freshmen feel uncomfortable their first year, and she'll be able to break the ice, I think, more.
Right.
I'd have to say mostly, I know the guard freshman sticks out in my mind probably because I spent the most time with them, and I know them the best of all of them. But I was totally impressed by their ability, their enthusiasm, and just they always have a smile. If you look at any of the freshmen's faces, they're always glowing, regardless, I mean, of what idiotic thing they're doing. They're always smiling and having a good time at it. And
Okay, a few freshmen. Okay, one is Matt Klein. Matt Klein reminds me a lot of me as a freshman in some ways. Ornery, kind of ornery, curious, and try to get away with a lot. And knowing from watching him, he can't get away with anything like I could, and I could not get away with anything. Steve Gardner and Holly Freeman, and I should say Matt Klein again. Those three are in my biology class. And those three this year have been really, really three individuals that I've kind of watched and have made me laugh at times, because those three, I mean, Matt would be sits right behind Steve, and he would always tease him. And Steve would turn around and get mad at him and turn around again. Matt would be teasing him again, and then there'd be Holly. Holly would try to split things up, and then somehow Holly would get involved in the three, then all of a sudden the three of them be fighting. And I just like those three because they just, like I said, make me laugh. They're funny. I like those three very much.
I would have to say Derek Haas and Jen Kopp. They came in a couple years ago, and they really loved band. They really busted their hides practicing, and it really paid off, and now they're really good musicians. I wish I would have had some of the work ethics that they had to practice as much as what they did, as hard as they did.
Well, I can say Derek Hubbard impressed me the most when he walked in and he started playing just like Rachel, Brian, and I, or anybody, any of the trumpets. We all were playing, and then Derek came in, and it was just so great. I mean, it sounded like he should have been a first trumpet then, but we had so many, wow.
I'm going to say it's a tie between Justin Slutes and Andrea Burton, just because Andrea always tries so hard. She's got a lot of stuff she likes to do, and she always tries really hard. No matter what she does, she's always thinking she's doing something wrong, but she's doing just fine. And Justin, just because that kid, he's the quietest, but yet he can be the funniest at times, because you never expect stuff out of him, but he'll just say something off the top of his head, and it'll blow your mind. It makes me laugh for days afterwards.
It's you. James Allpeter. James Allpeter's impressed me so much this year. He's made tons and tons of progress. I mean, he's the leader that is going to take our place, I think. He's got good leadership skills. At the same time, he knows how to keep it fun enough that it doesn't get so weighed down that everybody's dragging and doesn't want to do it. Overall, he's just a good kid, and he knows how to have a good time.
Christy Graham, most definitely. I mean, I used to look up to her even when I'm like, how does she do that? You know, her attention span is just like, wow, and she's just awesome. And I've always looked up to Christy Graham, and she's like 2 years younger than me, but I've always been really impressed with Christy Graham. She's just awesome.
This year, Ryan Ricklick really impressed me a lot. He really worked hard, and just like watching him on the field and his toes and everything like that, it kind of reminded myself, of myself when I was that age, and I just could tell that he's really working hard. But also, of course, my sister. I always like to watch my sister. I really enjoy getting to see her grow and learn and have fun.
Who sticks out in your mind as someone who you've really been impressed with for whatever reason? Who stands out?
Brian Ricklick. He's the greatest marcher. Like, I'd never seen any of the freshmen before, but we were always like, wow, who is that? And he was the best. He always had his toes up. He reminded me of Brian Fuller.